Love hurts, but love heals. We first met Amore 25 years ago in the burn unit at Children's Hospital. Somebody who should have loved her and cared for her had held her bare flesh against a piping hot steam radiator till she had third-degree burns. Because he was angry because she wasn't potty trained. She was 13 months old. And no medical help was sought till she was deathly ill from fever from the infection. And she was brought to the hospital. The nurses and the doctors cared for her. The social worker called protective services. In time, we were called to ask if we would bring her home. And I remember how patient the nurses were as they showed us how to clean those awful wounds, the blood, the pus, medicated and the clean bandages, and how they marveled over how tough she was. She hardly would make a peep when you'd have to do this. She was just anxious to get back up again and start moving and explore the world. She was easily the most energetic, inquisitive toddler I've ever seen. She was always on the move, always exploring, always tugging on your pant leg, trying to get you to pick her up. And you'd hold her and she'd squeeze your neck, and she loved being up there because she could see more and touch more and grab more. And she was always on the move. Of course, it made it hard to do any kind of work around the house with her squiggling around in your arms. Plus, we had a 2-year-old as well. So I remember I got a really sturdy play school playpen, and I set her in it, and I made sure it was nice and sturdy, and I put a bunch of toys in there, and because I had to do some cooking. And I set her in there, and I walked towards the kitchen. I must have got maybe 3 steps, and I feel her tugging on my pant leg. I said, Amore, did I forget to put you in? I'm thinking, I know I made sure it was sturdy, I made sure everything, all the toys were in there, and I forgot to put her in. So I put her back in, and she's just smiling up at me, and I back out of the room this time. I take 1, 2, 3 steps, and she smiles, and she grabs that netting, and she pulls herself up, gets an arm over the top, throws her leg over, flips off, and she lands, and she comes wobbling towards me. This is fun, let's do it again. She could just... So I picked her up, and I went back to cooking with one hand. We saw her wounds heal, but we've learned over the years, taking care of children, that it's often the unseen scars, especially the ones from wounds that are inflicted when you're at an age where you're thoroughly dependent upon the adults around you for food, for love, for warmth, that are the ones that are hardest to get over. But she seemed to be doing well, and her grandma moved up from down south and got herself an apartment, got herself situated, got the court to grant her temporary custody. And I remember when my wife and I took her over to, with all her things, and handed her over to Grandma and gave her last hugs and kisses and let go. Because that's what you do when you're a foster parent. You let go. And Grandma was kind enough to say we could keep in touch, although this was before the days of cell phones and constant, connectivity, and Grandma didn't have a house phone, and we ended up taking in other kids, and we didn't really stay in touch. But a few months later was Amore's birthday, and our wonderful wife, Michelle, bought a bunch of presents, and we carried it over to the apartment, and we knocked, and we buzzed, and we peeked in the window, and not only was nobody home, it seemed as if nobody lived there anymore. So we held on to the presents, and we held on to the hope that Amore was as psychologically and emotionally resilient as she was physically resilient. And over the last 25 years, I'm not a praying man, but every now and then I throw up a prayer for Amore. And, sorry. I throw up a prayer for Amore, and, sorry. I love you too. Whose name means love. That, I'm sorry. I throw up a prayer for Maury, whose name means love, that she has found the healing power of love.